And we're live. Good afternoon. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of the Midday Show. Hello, how are you? It's Neil Long. A glorious day today. Beautiful. Beautiful blue skies. They're saying it could be the hottest day of the year. Saying it could go up to 18 degrees today, which is quite something for February. But let's get our guest straight on. Very much looking forward to talking to this gentleman. We're talking health and therapy and well-being today, and it's Tanner Hassan. The Recovery Cartel. I love that.
Thank you very much, Neil. Good afternoon. How are you doing? All right?
I'm good, thank you, Tanner. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Sun is shining, so I seem to smile more when the sun is out. No
It's
one
glorious.
can do me wrong.
It's vitamin D, and it's good for all of us, isn't it?
Absolutely right.
The Recovery Cartel. Where do you get that name from? I'm intrigued. It sounds brilliant.
Yeah,
and unusual.
It is unusual, yeah, and that's exactly the name for it. So I'm a psychotherapist myself, and so is my partner Nick, and my other partner Gav, who sadly lost a very close family member, so he's had to step down for now. So it's just Nick and I. But so he's a training therapist, and Nick and I have been therapists for many years, and we're both in recovery ourselves for addiction. I've been sober 19 years. And thank you very much. So I'll be 20 years in 1st of October, and I've always wanted to do a recovery clothing brand, like the idea behind it, but never really had anybody. I didn't know how to connect it all and make it happen. And then we just talked about it last year, and we went live in September, October last year. And lots of favors and people and who can do this, and it's just been really great fun. And Nick come up with a name. He said, look, the Recovery Cartel, it's like, whole behavior, that cartel-esque, especially people into substances and addiction world. And it's just turning that negative into a positive and just a play on words. So we quite like the idea of the Recovery Cartel. So yeah, that's where it came from, really.
I like it. I mean, addiction is a huge problem, isn't it? And it seems to me, I'll be absolutely honest, that the only addiction I have is nicotine. I'm trying to quit vaping at the moment. Hopefully it's better than smoking, but nicotine, I would say, is probably one of the least bad ones to have, maybe.
Well, I don't want to depress you too much, but the most harmful substance out there, what do you think that is?
Alcohol.
Most people think alcohol or heroin. What if I told you it was caffeine?
Caffeine.
Yep, caffeine is the number one. It's the I know what caffeine in absolutely everything. But yeah, I mean,
why?
In moderation.
How come? How can caffeine be worse than heroin?
Well, I'm not the expert on caffeine for sure, but I used to work at the NHS, and there was a survey that came out, and in one of the trainings, most people put heroin down or alcohol down, and we know that if alcohol was created today, they've done like the toxicology report, and they're saying if it was made today, on average, you're looking at half a glass of wine a year. That's the bell ringing. Oh no, that's the fruits and facts. And it's saying cut him off. Half a glass of wine a year is what they're saying. That's how powerful alcohol is what would be the allowance if it was created today. It's crazy.
Seriously.
But with caffeine, it's linked to a lot of problems. You think about certainly I was guilty of that when I first got sober. Coffee was out of fashion. I was just completely a caffeine freak.
Well, it's not uncommon to go from one addiction to another, is it? Albeit a lesser one.
Yeah, but it's what caffeine does to you. A lot of people.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. So what does it do to you?
So if you think about it, if you were to have, I personally don't have a coffee past 11 a.m. That's the last time, because it's there's more caffeine in tea than coffee in terms of its instant hit. So tea is instant releasing of caffeine, and coffee is slower. There's more caffeine. I've got that completely wrong. Caffeine in tea, there is more, but it's an instant hit when you have your coffee, and tea is more slower releasing. But the caffeine in the body is going to affect the way that you regulate, the way the blood flow. It will contribute to anxiety levels, for your spiking of your levels, for your cortisol. It won't regulate your sleep very well. So anyone who's had a coffee at 10 o'clock at night, they're not sleeping very well. No. So it's like a silent, rather than obvious like drugs and alcohol. But actually, yeah, caffeine is up there. So search it, have a look.
Wow. I'm not quite sure where to go with that.
I know. I don't know why I said that. I just
No,
popped
but
out of it.
it's interesting. It's interesting to get out in the open. I mean, do you mean it's more dangerous than heroin or more addictive? From what point of view are we talking here?
Well, it's in the sense that we don't really regard caffeine as scary, right?
No.
But if you look at health-related issues to caffeine, according to the NHS, it's quite up there. Um,
Okay.
and certainly, for example, as a therapist, if someone was saying, I've got a lot of anxiety, one of the first things, you look at was sleep hygiene and can't sleep very well. We look at sleep hygiene. One of them is about your water intake. When do you last have a caffeinated drink? A lot of
Mm.
it's a stimulant, isn't it? If you think about it. So caffeine is a stimulant. So
Yes.
you have to look at those stimulant issues that come with it. So many people that have stopped sniffing cocaine, as an example, they might go to those caffeinated drinks. I won't mention the names here, but the ones that you can get,
Hmm.
and that people have been on those. Some of give you wings, and some look like
Yeah.
letters. You drink all those. That's just a can of come down waiting to happen. It just makes you shake inside. But a lot of people will switch that as a stimulant. So you have to remember that's going to increase blood flow, increase your heart rate. It's definitely going to tap into if you've got anxiety levels, which is all to do with your cortisol, because of course we all need anxiety now. Otherwise, we'd be food for the animals out the wild, fall off cliffs, and all sorts. Problem
But
with
there's a healthy
anxiety.
level of anxiety. It's meant for short bursts, isn't it? When we need it, fight or flight. It's not meant to be lived in constantly, which most people seem to do nowadays. Am I right?
That's right. That's right. Because animals are very different to us. So if a lion pops out and the antelope is there, fight or flight kicks in. Its response kicks in. The cortisol levels spike, and it gets out of danger. As soon as it's out of danger, what do you think it does, Neil? It just resumes eating the grass.
Well, what I notice with animals is they do this kind of vigorous shaking,
Hmm.
and for me, if I'm reading it right, that's them decompressing and getting rid of the chemicals, and then they've forgotten about it. They don't go to antelope therapists, do they?
No, they
It's,
don't. They don't go. Guess what, Dave? You never know what happened to me yesterday. They don't start recalling it.
it sounds like a Far Side cartoon. Do you
Yeah,
know
no,
that?
yeah, a bit of Animal Farm there, George Orwell. But no, there's none of that. But with humans, we constantly relive that, and so the problem with anxiety is that it does its job too well. So in the sense of, um, when you look at what anxiety is, it's taking a negative event from the past and throwing it into the future, into another shape or form. So the example is if you get mugged on a bus and then every time you see a big red bus, you start to freak out. Well, cognitively, you're not on that bus now, but the brain is trying to protect you because that's the job of the brain is to keep you
Mm.
alive. Happiness has to be built, right? So it does its job too well. And so therefore it tries to safeguard you from a lot of other things. And this, in the cognitive sense, you create other coping mechanisms. So now I won't get a bus, I'll get a taxi, or I won't even go out, as an example. So I think also an important thing to point out while we're talking about anxiety is to name what that is, because I think that's branded about too much. I feel that a lot of people say, "Oh, it's my anxiety. I've got anxiety." It's I'm anxious because of what? What is it that you're anxious about? I'm anxious about going to this event alone. I'm anxious about coming on the show with Neil today on the Midday Show.
I hope.
Naming. No, I'm not nervous, but naming it as an example is really important. So yes, I'm very passionate about mental health, well-being, therapy, addiction, everything really, all the light stuff.
Is the majority of your work around addiction?
Yes, so I'm the head of service at the moment for a company called Rehabs, which is an online treatment provider.
Hmm.
Um, so it's changing the way of since COVID how we deliver treatment. So I've
Mm.
always worked in mental health and addiction within the NHS in primary care. I work with mental health for children and
Mm.
adults. But addictions are my specialty, and I've worked in residential rehab before, and this is a new online treatment provider. So for those that can't go away or can't afford, they've got
Mm.
families and whatnot. So I'm really excited to be with them.
That's
So yeah,
brilliant.
absolutely,
Sounds really good and accessible as well. So,
absolutely
congratulations. Sounds like
accessible. Yeah.
good work. I mean, I can understand why the brain is doing its job,
Hmm.
and I can understand that it's doing it too well. The problem with that is you can end up with no life, can't you? If you're too scared to do anything, you won't do anything, and then it puts restrictions on your life that maybe don't need to be there. I'm not saying we don't need some level of caution. Of course, the analogy I always use, and I'm going to ask you how you help people get it back in balance in a minute, is there's where I'm sitting here. There's a road outside. I'm not anxious that there's a road outside. There's cars driving up the road. I'm not anxious, but I'm cautious enough not to run in it. It's that, and it's that difference between healthy caution, isn't it, and full-blown anxiety attack, which might be a little over the top, or perhaps very over the top for given the situation. Is that fair?
That is a fair assessment. But don't forget, you also learnt about dangers. So again, it's all about your environment. Who are your influential figures? Remember, the first 8 years are the most important years of our life in terms of development, right? Who do we trust in this world? Are we safe? Who, what, where, and where? So if you come from a schooling in the 80s, which is, don't be inquisitive, children should be seen and not heard, it doesn't work anymore. We need...
if it ever did.
If it ever did, right. So, dismissing feelings, and, why are you still crying? Stop crying. What that says is the child says what I'm doing is wrong, as opposed to learning as to understand. I can see you're upset. What's really happening for you? So it's that guidance and that teaching. So you've learnt from your influential figures and authority figures and parental figures,
and to be shamed for and to be shamed for having certain feelings. I mean, big boys don't cry springs to mind, but there must be a million others.
Awful. It's just an awful terminology, isn't it? Men don't cry. So, well, actually, they bleed, they cry. They're human beings, and it doesn't mean we need to go completely the other way.
No,
which is what the the social media comments are like, or the phrases, be a man. What does that even mean? And I do believe this type of pressure contributes to suicide and all sorts of, awful things that people interpret. So you're right. If we have the right guidance and the right education, then we are armed with knowledge like running through a road is going to be a disaster, which is why, if you watch a movie, can't remember a movie offhand, but let's say someone from another planet or someone that's come from a different time zone, they stand and look at a truck because they've never seen it before, so they have no idea whether it's going to hurt me or not. It just comes towards you because they don't have that education, they don't know that awareness around them. So you can't be hyper vigilant on everything, but if you're shown to be hyper vigilant on everything, so if you've grown up in a panicking family, mum freaks out all the time, dad is never around to talk about any stuff, you kind of learn these things. So yes, you might have someone that's a complete worrier and now they're kind of frightened to do anything or say anything. So I don't,
And how do we build more healthy habits once we have the awareness that we have a problem, so to speak? How do we go about building more healthy responses that serve us?
Good question. I think really we need to listen to our body more. As a psychotherapist, I work with a lot of unconscious work called unconscious mind therapy, and that's kind of a fusion between EMDR, NLP, coaching, hypnotherapy world mixed in with the psychotherapy world. I think it's all very important. And I think if you think about it, thoughts are the language of the mind and the feelings are the language of the body. And sometimes they don't talk. So visualization is a really big part of that connecting together. It's like the interpreter. So, for example, if I said to you, Neil, I'm going to fail my exam on Friday. And you say, oh, that's not very positive, Tan. You need to be positive. I go, I'm positively sure I'm going to fail my exam on Friday. So it's not about being positive or negative. If Neil then says to me, well, what's it going to be like if you did pass that exam on Friday? And well, it's going to be great. Now I'm going to be able to get that job. And then what? Well, then I'll be able to provide for my family. And then what? And then I can go on this lovely holiday I've always dreamed about. And then what? And so if I start visualizing and seeing that goal and getting the emotional intelligence before the event, evidence will suggest I'll look for the information that confirms that goal. I'm less likely to go.
This sounds NLP-ish and reticular activation system and all
correct.
that. Correct.
Yes, reticular activation system. Very beautiful. You know it. So there's lots of that. So that's understanding your brain and how that works, and then obviously articulating from a psychotherapeutic point of acknowledging your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, and acknowledging what changes you need to make in your life. And that's my job in the therapy room: is hold the mirror. It's like, this is what you're telling me. What do you want to change? It's not about me making you change. It's about what you want. You're the one telling me if you're happy with that kind of way of living, then what we're doing here. But if you're not, what do you want to do about it? It's not about let's blame the parents and hate the childhood. And it's not like Sigmund Freud originally created to keep people in therapy. It's more about being solution focused around, we can't change that. but why should we rob our future because of our past? And it's about connecting those dots and understanding how we can get better habits and have a better lifestyle, which is very hard to do in our society. Very hard to do. You know, if you think about the phone, the social media, everybody, where you go out, everyone's doing this. Next time you're out, acknowledge when you're sitting at a table how many people are doing this on a couple of days or families. It's heartbreaking, right? And I've been guilty of it myself. But it's like we're fixed. There's other distraction mechanisms out there all the time. So I find less is more approach is better. That's one of the things that we can do, is looking at our own lives. Is it better for me to run around like a lunatic at night, in the morning, or would it be better to prep my bag the night before because I know what I'm like in the morning? You know, my cortisol levels are at a spike in the morning. Anxiety levels are at the highest in the morning because your cortisol is higher in the morning. Of course, we need cortisol because it helps break down fat as well, right? So it's not all bad news, having cortisol and anxiety. So it's about making that plan and keep breaking it down. You know, if you're getting that feeling, as you said, before you go out and run into the road, what have you got to do? Well, I've got to get out of bed. Then what you got to do? You got to put your socks on. Then what you got to do? Put my shoes on. Then what you got to do? Well, I've got to open the door. Then what you got to do? And you've got to keep breaking it down and simplifying that process sometimes.
So it sounds like a bit of discipline, a bit of pre-paving, I suppose, a bit of pre-preparation, and yeah, because a lot of people spend, I'll be guilty of it, spending an awful lot of time thinking about what I don't want rather than what I do.
Yes. Oh, Neil, you understand it.
I've read all the books under the sun, Tanner. I really have. But here's the thing: I can talk a good game on it. I can do a radio show on it, but to practice it, now that's different. The application, I find it a bit. Maybe this will help other people with a similar problem. A bit overwhelming to try and apply it all at once. I've got to visualize that. I've got to think that. I've got to focus on that, and it's too much input at once. How do you break that down into manageable chunks?
Well, that's really easy. Believe it or not, it's really easy, and I'm gonna make you living proof of it. So after this show, I will send you my dulcet tones, and I will send you an audio, and you just follow my guidance. If you did that for 30 seconds a day, I mean, it's a 4-minute audio, but you'll understand the sentiment. You'll understand the assignment once you listen to it. If you did that for 30 days, every day, without fail, 30 seconds a day, for 30 days, you change the neural pathways in your brain. You'll change that reticular activating, the filter in your brain. You'll change that to start focusing on what you want, rather than what you don't want. And then it'd be interesting after 30 days for you to mention it on the show and how it's changed for you. If you do it every single day, it takes 30 seconds. I can do it with you now. It'll take you 10 seconds. It'll take 15 seconds. Right?
All right. Let me just hold on a minute. Where are we now? We're the 20th of February. So if I look at Wednesday, 25th of March, I take your challenge.
Okay. Challenge accepted.
Right. Challenge accepted.
Every day.
I'll invite you back in March. And what you're saying is it's a I don't have to be specific. How can I put this?
No, you have to be specific. That's that. So let's work real stuff. What's a real goal for you, Neil? Honestly, what's a real goal that you're happy to share on air? I'll
happily share. Let me just ask this first. All right.
Yeah, it's your show, not mine. Sorry.
No, it's not that. I'm not pulling rank. I'm just trying to think this through.
I've got the microphone. I'm over-egging my character. I think I'm main character vibe. Sorry.
No, not at all. No, you're my guest. It's your forum. It's not that at all. You're very welcome. Is it a general sort of reset to turn the habit of looking for what's not wanted to wanted on any subject, or does it have to be a particular subject which you then program? That's what I was asking.
It's anything. So it's about seeing the signs. For example, let's bring it back down to what we talked about with addiction, for example. When somebody has quit alcohol or substances or any addictive behavior, suddenly they notice things that were always there. They go, oh, look at the trees, look at the children playing, look at the sun is out. Well, that's always been out. That's always been there, depending on the month. But that's always been there. But you're so tunnel visioned of drink. All that matters is going and getting more, that you're not open to this stuff. The brain has seen it, but it's discounted it out because you're focusing on what you want. And what you want in that moment is to change the way that you feel and act out with a particular substance. So the rest of it filters out. So it's about putting your focus into that. If you were driving down the road and I said, look at all the pain in the butts driving down the car, down the road, 100% you'll see them all because I've put that in your focus and you're looking for those. But they've always been there. But if I said to you, look at the really kind gestured motorists on the road, you'll see all those as well.
And what do most of us look for on the roads?
The negative.
Exactly.
We look for the negative.
Have you
Fueled by
seen
our
that
anxiety.
video? The awareness test. It's the basketball players. Have you seen that one?
No, I haven't.
It's the most dramatic demonstration. I'll send you it later on.
Is it the black ball when somebody walks around in a costume or something?
That's right.
Costume.
What it puts in your mind, it says count the amount of passes the team in white make.
Yes,
and you're counting, and then the number comes up, and you've either got it right or you probably got it wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then it says, "But did you see the moonwalking bear?" And then it rewinds, and it's the same video. And I swear, right in front of you, right front and center, not at the back, front and center. There's a bear doing Michael Jackson moonwalking, and people don't see it
because of the commands. You're being told to look for this, so your brain is saying, "All right."
And that's reticular activating system,
correct.
Isn't it? All over.
Right.
It's a bit like buying a new car and then seeing it anywhere, or if you're a lady, buying a new dress and then suddenly everybody's wearing it. That's
they've always been there, but it's in your focus, and now you're seeing it. And believe it or not, Neil, we actually visualize more than we realize. Think about when you last went on holiday. How many times we've said to our co-workers or loved ones, our friends, "Oh, I can't wait. I can see it now. I'm going to be doing this. I'm going to be doing that." And then those very things that you've been thinking about, you go and do straight away because you are focusing on what you want rather than what you don't want. And you find yourself doing those very things. Most people, when they think in that way, as soon as they get on holiday, they don't unpack. They dump the stuff in the room and they get straight on the beach and do what they want to do.
Quite right.
So we visualize in the good sense. So it's just about understanding, about seeing those signs and that discipline and structure and changing that stuff. But of course, a lot of the reasons we don't, like you said, around the motorist, for example, we look for that negative is because one notion could be that person's not a comfortable driver in the first place. So they don't trust anyone on the road. So they expect everyone to, it could be automatic negative thoughts that they've been taught. There's all sorts of reasons. And that's why I like working in the coaching space, the therapy space, the unconscious space, as well as the cognitive space. So it's like a toolkit. So I can work with whatever skill set I need with a client.
Explain a little bit more about unconscious, what you mean by that, if you would.
So, yeah, absolutely. So, everything when you're in talking therapy, like what we're talking now, it's all from the cognitive state, isn't it? So, it's, you've got your modalities that you have, your subconscious programs, your unconscious programs, and your conscious programs. So the subconscious is when you get up in the morning, you don't go, "Oh, I need to turn my leg to the left and then I need to extend." You just do it. You tie your shoelaces up, you just do it. You open the door, you just do it. You breathe in, you just do it. Yeah. You don't think about that. What you've just done there, where you just crossed your arms, is more of an unconscious process. So maybe what was going on in your mindset immediately was like, "This is interesting. I'd like to learn a bit more. Where he's going." That wasn't a conscious process. You didn't go, "Hey, I'm going to cross my arms now. I'm going to sit back." That was an unconscious process. So you've got So you've got automatic programming and unconscious programming. And to give you an example of that, if you was on the train and a ticket inspector came up to you and leaned over you and got in your personal space and said, "Ticket, please," how would you honestly feel, do you think, consciously? Obviously, you're not going to like him invading your personal space. But
no, probably not that. It depends on how polite he was. I mean, because you can get some real...
Right, and if it wasn't very polite and it was in your face, you might be like, "Do you want to back up a bit, mate?" There's going to be a reaction. Now, sometimes, if that reminds you of a situation where maybe it's an authoritative teacher or someone that was like that from your past, that's an unconscious process. So your body reacts before your mind. The body says, "Don't like this. This reminds me of when I was 8 and I was being told off and not tidying up my room." So the reaction might come out as opposed to a response, which is, "Excuse me, would you mind just backing up a little bit so I can get my ticket?" But if we're unconsciously impacted by this stuff, it will influence our cognitive thought, and we might say something not so pleasant. Like,
because the unconscious is more powerful, isn't it?
Well, because people forget that the unconscious, the body, in the body holds memory. It holds memory. And people think the memory is just in your brain. It isn't. The body holds memory too. So if you've been bullied or something like that, and then you're experiencing something similar, even if a situation is different, the body will respond first. It's an unconscious process. It's there to protect you. It goes, "Oh, hold on. I know this. This doesn't feel right." So the unconscious is, many people might relate to this when they, as adults, when they go back to their family home, their wife or their loved one might say, "You're really different when you come home." I was like, "Am I?" Yeah. Well, it's my mum and dad. I'm the same as I've always been. No, no, you're different. I can't put my finger on it, but you're just different. It's because unconsciously you go back to being that childlike person
Yeah.
in that place. That's not a conscious process. It's an unconscious process, you know? And so transactional analysis works in psychotherapy, works a lot on unconscious. And it had a bit of a bad rap for the day because a lot of salesmen used it, trying to appear to the inner child. You know, you
Oh,
need this
right.
car. So they used a lot of those techniques and NLP and transactional analysis to sell their products. So it's, you know, I feel we could talk about all that all day, but I hope some of that made sense anyway.
No, it does make sense, and it makes me wonder just how many unconscious processes. I mean, because some of them serve us, don't they?
Yeah.
Like folding. Well, there's a benign one. It's no big deal, folding my arms like that, and that was. You're right. I was like, ooh, like that. You read that
Yeah.
absolutely right. So yes, but that's benign, neither positive or negative. So some are positive. I wouldn't like to have to think how to open the door every time I walked up to it, or how to put my socks on in the morning. That would be very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, we do find ourselves in some situations where it can trigger you, and you do feel like you're a small child again just for a moment, and that's where the problems can start when you're getting an 8-year-old's reaction in a 50-year-old body, shall we say?
Yep, definitely. In the workplace, in the home, in relationships, you know, if the boss talks to you in a certain way at work, that might remind you of something else. So, you know, it's an unconscious process that happens, and then it influence. If it's impactful enough in the unconscious, it can influence your cognitive thought, which is a very different notion to CBT, which is your thinking, your feeling, and behavior. But actually, sometimes the unconscious, if it's impactful enough, it will influence your cognitive thought. Say someone who's frightened to get on a plane, right? What that is that phobia, as we call it, is anxiety. And so, what is it? Well, CBT approach at times would look at, oh, you're not being in control and all that kind of stuff. Well, with the unconscious work, you're able to really find out what's going on there. And I worked with a client once where they couldn't get on a plane for 15 years. 15 years.
Wow.
And the reason for it, you'd think she'd had every sort of form of therapy you could imagine. And when it broke it down, it was actually linked to there was like a double schema. There was another pattern of behavior in there. So you work with the feelings, not the thought. Close your eyes, go back to that time when you were last on the plane, and what can you see, what can you hear, what can you feel, and then really home in on the feelings. Where is that in your body? And if it had words, what would it say? When you find that, you ask the unconscious to do the work and say, where do you remember feeling that same feeling? Even if the situation's different, the same feeling. Oh, it was when I was in the lift at like 10, and it was you know, everyone was in there and I couldn't breathe. I felt really panicked. Okay, and we kept going, follow that feeling. Is it the same? Well, it kind of is the same. And I thought, right, there's more to it than that. And then it turned out it was when she tried to save her brother from drowning and he was pulling her down. And so that's where it started. And she can't see how the hell that's got anything to do with anything. So we removed that feeling through the tools and techniques that I've learned. And then how do you feel about it now? She's like, well, I can't wait to book a holiday. And so I get selfies and reports and in fact, you
Brilliant.
know, it's just
That's the thing with the new techniques like NLP, because I did study some NLP, and it can be very fast, can't it?
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't matter how the analogy I like to use. It doesn't matter how long the computer's had the virus, 20 minutes or 20 years. Remove the virus, and the computer will work. Doesn't matter
Absolutely
how long
right.
it's been there.
Bang on the money.
Also, doesn't matter why it's there particularly.
Yeah.
It's NLP is all about the how, isn't it? Not the why.
Correct, and that's exactly right. So I learned that from Robert Heisey, who's UK's #1 unconscious mind therapist, and that's exactly his approach. And he said, "But I understand your place for therapy because I'm so used to the why and what's the pain and whatnot. So I like doing both where it's appropriate. I don't rather than say this is the way, this is the way. I say I'm an integrative therapist. I've learned everything. I'm open to learn more skills, and then we'll bring out the toolkit and see what works well with the client. You're absolutely right.
Yeah, absolutely. So with the addiction recovery work, I mean, I know some people that have been in recovery and have done very well at it, and I've never met one that said life was better when I had that addiction.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
never one. And you're right, it does dominate every. I knew someone that was addicted to alcohol, and it was. They say alcoholics are easy to love but hard to like, and that was certainly the case from my point of view. Sneaky and devious and absolutely, like you touched on earlier, obsessed. It was all about alcohol. It was all about where to get the next fix. Not his family, not his kids, not his work,
Yeah.
alcohol.
Yeah. And not
And
everybody understands that. And a lot of families and loved ones will often ask me, I don't understand. And I'm like, okay, it's not the same, but you'll understand this, Neil. Imagine it's like being in love, and I tell you, you can't have that love. You can't see her. You can't be around it. You're not allowed to. You will do anything to get that love. You'll sneak out. You'll keep it hidden. And that's just a little smidge as an example of what it's like. Obviously, it's not the same, and it's far more complex than that. But it's to help sometimes some of the families and loved ones understand why
the
they
all-encompassing nature of it.
right. And unfortunately, it's that overriding obsessive thought to change the way that you feel. And that's because they're trying to communicate something in the body, which is I'm either sad, I'm lonely, I'm traumatized, I've got attachment issues. There is a pain. The why is important, but actually, what's underneath the why, as Gabor Mate said, which is the pain. What's the pain? And quite often the trauma is, not telling anyone about it. Who did you talk to when you experienced X? No one. Okay, so this is why men have got a lot of issues, because we are taught not to speak about feelings. Down the pub, having those kind of jokes, and really, what would it look like if they said, "How you doing, Neil? Feeling a bit emotional today?" Ah, shut up, mate. What's the matter with you? And we're getting better at those kind of conversations, but actually, we need to have those conversations. Women, as a personality type, are better at developing the relationship because they're more open. Men are very good at making if you could generalize around personality types, women are very good at developing and shaping a relationship, whereas men are quite good at, say, making the decision. And I'm generalizing. I'm not saying this is it, because there'll be people going, well, I disagree. I think for any successful leader, you need to have male and feminine, masculine and feminine personality traits. So as a therapist, I can develop the relationship, which is more in the feminine trait, but also make a decision in the masculine. There's all sorts of different things. But that's why instinctively women, they come together, they bond. I always think of the lionesses in the pack, in the pride, and the way that they come together. And that's kind of how I find a lot of women when they're sharing what's going on. Very, very rare are they a closed book. It does exist, but they're more open. Whereas the men, we're the ego and bravado and hide it and mask it. So we get good at masking until it's too late, right?
Masking is a big thing, but eventually the mask will come off one way or another.
Yes, whether you want to be in control of it or not, it will come out.
And it's best to nip it in the bud. But you're right. The teachings aren't particularly there. I was never taught that growing up.
No, or at school. Teach us how to regulate emotion. Teach us about disappointment. Teach us about how to handle no. And learn that failure is part of success, and all these wonderful life skills and tools. That's the stuff we need to be learning, because we might not be learning that at home. And that's what we need in the school system, is my view, as well as in the home, and teach people. But there's no course, there's no exam for parenthood, is there? There's no course.
Well,
no certificate.
I mean, where should we be taught this? In the home, in school, in
both
therapy rooms, anywhere?
Anywhere and everywhere, absolutely. I know it sounds cliche, but really if you think about it, if every single human being on this planet was encouraged and told that they were loved, and they believed it and they felt it, it would be so much better. We literally would. I mean, it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but that's the fundamentals. If we believed that, and we weren't shamed, and we weren't abandoned, and we weren't a subject of experiencing some of these things that could be avoidable, I think we'd end up thriving more. I grew up in a time of, oh, why is he in a wheelchair? Don't say that. Yeah, but he's in a wheelchair. Don't say that. Oh, right. If you tell a kid that enough, they stop being curious and inquisitive and stop asking those questions. And you might see those people in the workplace, the ones that sit in the middle, that don't set the world on fire and are not lazy, but they just stay under the radar. And that's usually the makeup. Of course, we want to encourage that. So I'm a dad now, I'm a parent. And if my daughter's upset, I validate the feelings. I don't dismiss the behavior. I might challenge some of the behavior, but we need to not dismiss the feelings. I can see you're upset. Now she's seen. She's validated. It's a bit of graft, and it's a bit of hard work at times for some people, because they've been taught a certain way. But most of it, we're making it about ourselves otherwise, aren't we? Oh, stop crying. Well, what you're saying is, that noise is annoying. I can't understand what's going on. I'm trying to do something and you're just crying. Well, then you're making it about you.
And there's something wrong with you.
Yeah. There's something wrong with you. And that's what a child will believe.
And that will lead to a certain self-abandonment, won't it?
Well, you can create avoidance, for sure. When you look at your attachment style, if the caregiver is not around ever, emotionally and physically, Well, that person learns to hug themselves as a child, so then they don't let people in very often. But then there might be disorganized in attachment style, which is where they're anxious and avoidant. So it's kind of, I want the love, but I'm worried about the rejection. So a lot of this stuff plays out from our past and from our childhoods, and what we've learned and what we've experienced. But it all can be changed. Doesn't mean that's it. Bad news. It is what it is. Enjoy what you've got with what you've got. You can actually make sustainable change. And I believe you can do that in the therapy room and with the psychoeducation as early as you can do it. I mean, that's just my view.
No, it's a good view. I mean, if we were taught this early on.
I often think we go to school too early in this country, and I'll tell you why. I do. In Switzerland, they don't start till they're 8, and I think some other countries, I'm not an expert on it, but 8 years old. Well, remember, 8 years is the most important years of your life, of learning who do you trust, who do you, all this kind of stuff. And I think it gets infiltrated and changes early on, very early on. Do you know, my daughter was 4 years old when we had the conversation about skin color,
right?
And it was a real teachable moment. I was 2 when I noticed that my mum and dad were different color skins, right. And it's just an observation rather than an issue, right? So it's just an observation. I'm looking at them both. My mum's Irish and my dad's from Cyprus, and so I could see that there was a difference. Now, my daughter was playing with her dolls, and she referred to the doll as Chelsea, these little Chelsea dolls, and the other one was called Black Chelsea. She called her Black Chelsea. And I thought, inside, I was dying inside, and thought, there is a moment here. There's a teachable moment. Let's just not make it about me. Let's just reflect, and let's look at what this means and what she's learning out there. And so I said to her, well, if she's Black Chelsea, is she not pink, white Chelsea? She said, well, she's more like a peach. So would she not just be Peach Chelsea and she'd be Black Chelsea? She said, or would they not just be Chelsea? I said, yeah, they'd just be Chelsea. And it was one of the moments, and I thought, where did she learn that? Well, it weren't from my house. So it was where she was at. And I think we could safeguard some of that. That's a little example, and maybe some people listening might think that's a bit excessive, but you understand my point. There are things that, I wore a pink shirt once. She said, you can't wear that. Why not? Oh, only girls wear pink. Where have you learned that? You see, not in my house, you didn't learn that. You're learning that outside in society before you're even 8. So I can't get an opportunity to teach you some of the things that I've learned. But of course, then there's a downside to that, because as you just said, what if you're not good parenting and you're not teaching them stuff when they're 8? What have they learned when they go to school finally? So,
well, we are teaching them consciously or unconsciously all the time.
Yes, of course, yeah.
What you're describing sounds like very, very conscious teaching, and I tend to agree. Actually, now you said that, thinking about it, it is the first 7-8 years, isn't it? And yeah,
absolutely.
Have you seen the Michael Moore film Where to Invade Next?
No, but I'm going to write that down.
It's really good. Don't be put off by the title. He's always up for a bit of satire, is our Michael Moore. But basically, he's going around the country, around these different countries with the American flag and, in inverted commas, invading them. But all he's doing is meeting leaders, meeting thought leaders there, meeting people that are doing things in a pioneering, different way for good ideas to take back to America, because there's a lot of people working in America. It's an incredible film. And some of the things that are going on in countries around the world, I think these are such good ideas, but we seem quite slow to adopt them, don't we?
Do you want my controversial idea?
Come on then.
I personally believe let women run the world for 10 years and see what happens.
Oh, that's not particularly controversial.
Well, I think it is, because most men are in power, and the women that are in power, I feel they have to overcompensate because they're female. I've often seen some interviews and what they've said, and they might overcompensate in terms of their real true nature. I get running a country, you need to be a certain person anyway. But I do believe, just from having worked with so many people and worked in leadership roles over the years and what I've seen, a boardroom full of men doesn't work. A boardroom full of women doesn't work. You need a blend of both. And we need each other. We absolutely need each other. But I think for what's been going on since before I was even born, we still talk about it being a man's world, and very much so, and women had to try and get the vote and equal pay in the entertainment industry, and still not there. I really feel, as an experiment, that's the right word, but I just really feel that if men step down from those positions and just let only females, run those positions, let's see what happens. I guarantee it wouldn't be worse. I guarantee it just wouldn't, because it just wouldn't. And that's why it's controversial. That's my honest belief. When I just see some of the nonsense that we're looking at and how they are, and it's like a theatre watching that.
Well, as a generalization, I would say that women are a lot less interested in personal achievement, ego.
Correct. That's basically what I was trying to say, and I was just
women would be more holistic and be more concerned with the greater whole and the bigger picture.
Yes.
While men can tend to want to prove themselves and compete with other men for the sake of self-aggrandizement, which doesn't matter too much in certain contexts, but if you're running a country, it probably does quite a lot.
Yeah. No, definitely. So that's my view. I mean, I'm pro everybody, but just from what I'm seeing, it would be really nice. And sometimes it would be really nice if people could just make a decision. For COVID as an example, I wish people just said, "We don't actually know. We don't actually know what we're doing, really. But give us some time. We'll work with it. We're in it together." And give the human aspect. People will probably acknowledge it more. But I think I'm too therapeutic to be in politics, because there is a type. They never answer the flipping question, and criticize somebody else to and I just think, oh God, they're like children that haven't learned stuff sometimes when you look at it, and I think, well, there is some groundwork we could do to change that.
No, I know. I mean, I look at some people, I think, oh my God, and you're in a position of power. Mind you, that all seems to be changing, certainly in the last couple of weeks. We've certainly had a couple of no one's above the law lessons in the last couple of weeks, haven't we?
Absolutely.
Is there any woman in particular you'd like to see lead the country?
My wife would be a great leader of this country.
Perfect.
She's powerful. She is powerful, and she says how it is, but with humility and grace, and makes a lot of sense, and knows when to be emotional and knows when to be really practical. So someone like her. But I also, again, I'm not a politician, so I don't know policies, but I did get the vibe from the lady who ran New Zealand. I really liked what she was about.
Yes.
When they had the attacks that occurred and things that had happened,
I remember
the way she brought the island together.
I remember. No, you're right. I remember. Yes, she was a fantastic woman.
Beautiful, and I thought the way she handled that, I thought was great. I like the Italian. Forgive me, I'm not a politician, so I might sound ignorant. If they have prime minister or a president in Italy, is it prime minister or president in Italy? Yeah, see, I don't know. I'm going to say the lady who runs the government in Italy, she seems really great. The one where Donald Trump says, "Can I call you beautiful?" Is that right? Is that not, that clip? And you think, relax, Donald, relax. But she seems quite good. But definitely the lady who ran New Zealand, from what I'd seen. Again, I'm sure, like all leaders, are out to be judged, and I'm sure some of the decisions they make don't work. But anyway.
Ian in Surbiton says a woman in power would still be criticised about their hair, their clothes, but that seems to reflect the mindset of the masses, doesn't it? And does it really matter? If a woman's in power and doing a great job, does it really matter? If people don't like her clothes or not, it's ridiculous. Are we saying by other women?
Yeah, by other women. Well, and that's just to do with association, isn't it? So it's about what you're knowing in those roles, and that kind of pressure, and the how you should present into the world. But actually, the silent one that we don't talk about is men. So this is going to blow your mind, Neil. So we have the same issue, believe it or not, that the women are interpreting around, like you just said, about hair and what's to be slim or to be big or to be whatever it's going to be. But men, they change very subtly. So in the 1970s, if you remember the Star Wars figurines that were out, the action figures that came out in the 70s, they were quite thin. I don't know if you was into Star Wars when you was a kid, but
I wasn't, but I'll take your word for it.
So they were very slender, very, very slim and normal, kind of just regular. And then He-Man came out in the 80s, and suddenly everyone was buff and huge and massive. And there was this subliminal messaging that that's what a man is, to be big, to be muscles. And then, of course, it happened in movies, models on Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, absolutely. All of that stuff. So, and again, you probably had a lot of steroids kicking in at that point as well. The WWE, formerly WWF,
But did
Everybody's
all this
massive.
root from basically something that's not much more than a meme, a meme where they want to sell figurines, and is something like that powerful enough to influence our culture? And that wouldn't make me fear the person that put it out. It would make me fear the masses that would buy into something that's just really entertainment.
Well, it's marketing, isn't it? It's very clever marketing. It's just what was put out. We're fed. It's that consumerism. This is what you need. This is what you want. The person who created the scrolling wrote a paper on it, but he also wrote a paper on why it's addictive. So the same person who created it made millions from doing it, and then made millions from telling you why it's a problem. So that in fact, when you're looking at social media or your phones while we're on the subject, it's not the actual content you're watching, it's this motion is the addictive component. What's coming next, what's the anticipation, and it's just that becomes addictive in its sense. So yes, I think we can be influenced in our society around everything, what it is to be beautiful, what it is to be happy, what it is to be, which is why social media can be quite a difficult place, because people portray a version of themselves. See, me, I portray the truth. I just tell you, if I've got something to say, I'll say it. And I think that's where it needs to be. And you add this pressure. So I'm definitely a fan of reducing social media for young people. I'm of that ilk. I'm a fan of that. My daughter will not be having any social media until she's 16. That's for sure. You can quote me on that. I want to protect
It's
them.
interesting you say it's the what's coming next. It's the what's coming next, because it's dopamine, isn't it? That's the reward system, and it's all about anticipation, isn't it?
Yep.
But there's never sort of stopping and appreciating the moment in any of that. That's a recipe for never being satisfied with anything.
Why do you think, when you see, again, go quite cliche in the story, but you understand it. Many years ago, I went to a church service, and there was these kids that came from a poor village. Don't know the country, but it was an African country, and a lot of their mothers had died of HIV, had full-blown AIDS, and passed away.
Okay.
They were the happiest children you'd ever seen. The smiles, the energy that was coming off of them was so infectious. And I thought a large part of that is also because they are not a part of this consumerism, this others. I'm not saying I want to live in this island and have nothing. I like my nice stuff. I'm not anti any of it. I'm just aware of this stuff. But they also had less in their lives and appeared quite happy, even though they just lost their loved ones and their parents, and they were visualizing the future about being a doctor and really wanting to help people. And
which would suggest that, given the right environment, I mean, I wouldn't have thought that would be the right environment, but who knows, that happiness is the natural state. Happiness is the default. It's how everyone's supposed to be.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it now. I mean, I'm of that age now where I can look back and go, it was a much simpler time then. I used to hear parents talking about it. We could leave our back doors open or front door open or whatever it was, and we couldn't do that in my day. And now I can sit back and say, well, actually, 90s weren't that bad. I loved the 90s. I loved sitting in my bed, listening to, in the 80s, listening to my radio rather than a screen to watch something, just listen to some music. Or, we're noticing these changes. We've become a very hard and fast, instant world, and everything's on tap now. I mean, you think about it, when you put an order on a famous app to get things delivered, it's with you within a minute, within like sometimes the same day.
I know.
Same day. Or the next day, no matter how wacky it is that you're looking for, it's instant gratification, instant now.
So life is easier, but not necessarily more satisfying.
Correct, because you've got to keep up with the demand, right? So you've got to look at, when you go on holiday into an island and you have the food, and you go, "Oh, this meat is amazing. This produce is amazing." Well, it's because they're not under the industry style of, packet meat or packet this, and it's been grown with loads of chemicals just to meet that demand. So we kind of undo ourselves in a way sometimes. But don't get me wrong, I'm not anti that either. I'm aware of all of it, and I'm just observing it and where I sit in that. And there are things that I do that perhaps someone might say, well, you're giving into that. You're not recycling everything. You've not got recycled toothbrush.
I heard a great phrase once, Talent. It was everything in moderation, including moderation itself. And I thought that was nice. I quite like that one.
If only I'd met you when I was drinking, that would have been helpful. to know that. I didn't
actually that wouldn't have been helpful when you were drinking.
No, it wouldn't have been. But no, I hear you. I mean, look, my great grandmother, Irish.
I think I'm saying a bit of what you fancy does you good, but having what you fancy on tap every day, you just won't appreciate it. Obviously, I'm not talking about if you've got an addiction, that's different.
No, of course. But I mean, look, my great-grandmother died peacefully in her sleep, smoking a pipe and drank half a bottle of whiskey a day. Nothing, just died peacefully in her sleep, 101. So, it's like, it is what it is, right? All I can do, I think it's because I've become a parent, I'm more aware of this stuff, so I don't have cow's milk anymore because of the way they treat cows. And so I'll have oat milk. I'll only have free-range eggs because I didn't like the chickens sitting in their own feces and sort of having heartburns. And so I made those conscious changes in my life that I could do. I can't change everything because we live in a massive big cog, but certainly notice the difference. So it's just becoming aware.
But what you can do is, you say, you can be responsible for yourself. You can, and anyone can do it, is that you can make the decision for yourself. Where do you sit in all of it? And you're not getting wound up or depressed or miserable about it. You're just saying, no, that's what it is, but this is what I choose within that. And that's what we all can do.
Yeah, and I don't preach and tell it and try and convert everyone to do that. I don't have an opinion on that. I just think, there's a way of articulating this sort of stuff, like having a conversation like this. I can have that, but I wouldn't say you must. I mean, look, it's embarrassing. Years ago, I used to chuck things out the window in the car. Awful, rubbish. I just chuck it out. I'm being honest.
Yes, I don't do that anymore.
And I don't do that anymore. And I haven't done that for years because
no, me neither.
It doesn't feel right. It's not right for the environment. It's not right for the community. It's not right. There is a place you can dispose of it. There's no excuse. And then, you drive down certain pit stops areas and you just see the rubbish and the filth everywhere. And you think, yeah, that doesn't happen in Switzerland. It doesn't happen in Austria. It's perfect there. It's like Toy Town. It's incredible. They take pride of their community. So I'm getting to that age where I'm like, my community matters.
Quite right. Quite right too. I'm just going to walk across the room and put a plug. Oh, hold on. Pop a plug in. Excuse me a second.
No worries.
Midday Show will be right back after this break. So just to finish up, because we started off talking about addiction, and obviously, you're living proof. There is hope. So if anyone's watching this or the replay, just maybe some words of encouragement for you, if you could, about it is possible to have a better life, or even if you're struggling with anything at the moment, let's just leave it on a positive note.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, look, the reality is, you've got an alcohol-free market that's increased. People being sober curious is a thing. When I got sober, there was none of that. So it's a really exciting time for people to make changes. In fact, now they've noticed the younger folk are actually consciously choosing to drink less alcohol, which is unprecedented for the first time in history, because there's so much more options out there and looking at behavioural change and making things better. You don't have to be an addict or an alcoholic to make changes. They're saying it's not all or nothing. There's that bit in between where people want to make lifestyle choice. So there are a lot more sober curious social media platforms, people talking about it, sobriety podcasts, all sorts of things. So that's what instilled the idea of, look, some people aren't completely anonymous if you go down that support system for addiction, and people want to be quite loud and vocal and proud about that they've had a mistake and they've made some changes in their life. That's what the Recovery Cartel does. It says wear it with pride. If you want to keep it anonymous, keep it anonymous. We've got a load of different phrases. I've just kept it kind of classy today and just left out a more signature piece. But we've got, we do recover. We've got hope, faith, and courage. We've got trust the process. And it's not just about addiction, Neil. It's about recovery, whatever it means to you. So you might be recovering from a physical illness. You may have been diagnosed with an illness and you've come through the other side. It can be anything. Neurodiverse. It can be anything. And wear it proudly. And that's what started the movement. So because what we believe is you've got to come forward and talk about this stuff. Keeping it in there doesn't work. No matter what background you're from, what cultural background or faith you have, or what it teaches you, it doesn't get better. Just keeping it in there, it makes it worse and affects everybody around you, even if you think it doesn't. So the point is, be loud and proud and come forward when you've got that milestone and say, I own it. I'm here. And there are some that don't, and that's fine. So therefore, that only happens if you come forward. It's not a sign of weakness to ask for help in anything we do. It shapes your character, and it's actually a sign of strength to say, hey, I've got an issue despite whatever it is and where I come from. I need some guidance and help. And that doesn't have to be addiction. There's anything in life. As I said to you, I was humble enough to say to you, well, I can't say humble enough because I said it, but when I said to you I didn't know the politicians, old drinking me, would have tried to style that out and pretend I know what I'm talking about. And I would just blag it. Because it's self-worth and fear of judgment, and Neil and listeners might think, oh, he's a twat, doesn't know what he's talking about. Whereas if I say, actually, I'm not really sure, Nothing happened. You didn't go, well, we're going to have to end this interview. This is disgraceful. It's just that.
No, of course not. I mean, to be honest, I didn't really know either.
And so then encourage you to then speak up and go, well, actually, I don't know either. And all of a sudden, so you see the value in actually being honest and saying, I don't know.
Of being in a non-judgmental space, yes, absolutely.
And that's the key. That's the key. And the biggest judger is yourself on that stuff. That's what kept me out there longer. It's like I was ashamed of myself. I was disgusted by myself. My self-talk was awful. So if you're going through anything, you don't have to be an alcoholic or an addict. But what I'm saying is, if you've got anything where you want to change and you know that you can't do it on your own, let somebody in. You cannot do it alone. I can't, we can. And there's plenty of resources in the community. It doesn't have to be as extreme as rehab. If you want to go to rehab, fine. That's usually the last point of call, in my opinion. But there's plenty of accessing support that's freely available in the community, as well as paying for private therapy or someone like rehabs, where you can do where you are, and it's a fraction of the cost. There's so much on offer, but the main point is to ask for help. I've met people that have got sober listening to podcasts, and then it's triggered them to go and get therapy to sort of finalize some stuff. There's a lot of inspiration.
I don't think there's any weakness in asking for help. I think it shows a weakness in the society that would teach you there's a weakness in that.
But we almost wait for it to happen to a celebrity for us to go, yes, this is a really good idea. We're still focused on idols a lot. That comes from Empire times, right? We're still focused very much on that. We had like a support system in the prison to help people that were addicted to drugs, only because it affected the governor's daughter. So suddenly it's just like, we should really do something about this drug problem. All right, because it's affecting your camp. Now we want to, I'm being a bit crass as I say it, but that's how the change happens, right? If it starts affecting your backyard. And so I do think there is a power in keeping the conversation going and talking about the people that are suffering from their loved ones that they're concerned about from an addiction, as well as the person that's in it themselves. But don't let it get to that point. Make sustainable change now.
I think that's a really lovely way of putting it. Good luck with it, and thank you for all the brilliant work you're doing. Keep going. The world obviously very much needs it. All the best with everything. It's tanner-hassan.com if people like the cut of your jib and they'd like to...
that won't be on there. That's my therapy website, actually. It's the recoverycartel.co.uk, actually.
In that case, if
you want therapy, absolutely come and visit me on there. But for the Recovery Cartel, we're on Instagram at the Recovery Cartel, and the website is www.therecoverycartel.co.uk. You can find us there, and there's a piece for everyone. We also give, I will just say this, there's a piece called Healthy Mind, or if you break down the words the way I've done it, it's called Heal Thy Mind. 100% of that goes to the Samaritans. So if anybody buys that piece, all of that goes to the Samaritans. I just wanted to point that out. So
that is brilliant.
If people want
Thank you. And we have our challenge on. So you're going to send me this audio.
I'm going to send you this audio.
And I'm going to listen to it every day for 30 days.
Yep.
And I will commit to that. And then I'll come on 30 days time and I'll tell you how it went.
Tell me how it went. And if you're up for it and you're brave enough, if there's still a block, I will do some removal work with you and help you get your goal in play. If whatever that goal is that you're picturing, if there's something there I can help you remove or move forward in, I can do that.
All right, you're on.
If you don't want to do it on here, we can do it offline, of course. But if you're up for doing it, I think it will be quite exciting to see.
I don't mind. I mean, would I do that in public? Maybe. I'd think about it for the greater good, or we could certainly.
If it helps, I did it with Lars once. Daniel O'Reilly, the comedian Lars. I did it with him. And it was quite powerful to watch because his body changed, and I pointed it out to the producer as I was doing it, and he said, "Yeah, I did notice that," and it was really quite interesting to watch. But it's about helping you. If there's something that you're blocked on and you genuinely want help on, of course, offline, no problem. But if it's something that's a bit lighter, then you want to do it on here, absolutely. But we can review that. No problem.
That's lovely. Thank you so much. Lovely to have met you. All the best with everything. I'll send you this footage as well. If you want to just ping me an email address, and I'll send you the footage over, which you're free to use for any shameless marketing purposes you like, or just delete it out your inbox and it'll never bother you again.
No, that's brilliant. Thanks ever so much for your time. Lovely talking to you. Thank you.
Yeah, likewise. All the very best. Good afternoon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye. Another top show. Thank you very much indeed. Just enough time for me to say Russ and the gang will be back on Friday. Neil needs therapy, living in New Mordor. I'm coming over, Surbiton. I'm going to sort you out one of these days, Ian. Just about, I don't know. Anyway, no, we banter, we enjoy it. Anyway, so Russ and Phil and Jonathan Baz and Chantal, all the crew for the Friday midday show. Very much look forward to. Well, I won't see you then, but I'll see you next Monday, and looking forward to the result of that experiment in a month's time. Good afternoon.